Hello and welcome back to the Forza Italian Football Podcast. I'm your host, Conor Clancy, and making a long-awaited return this week. It's just one guest, but we only need one guest when he talks as much as this person does. It's my least favourite Australian, Nicholas Carroll. Nick, welcome back.
Thanks, Connor. Least favorite. I thought it was favorite, but I'm just glad to be back. I got a call back. I thought I was finished. That was it. But no, I'm here. Serie A. It's great. 3 weeks in. Exciting season. So I'm happy to be here talking about football. So let's hope you behave yourself tonight.
You are our Leonardo Spinazzola. You misbehaved over the summer, so you're in the stands for the first few weeks of the season, but give it time and you'll become a regular again. So transfer window's closed, international break is done. Serie A can actually get a bit of momentum now before the next international break in about 2 weeks or whatever it is. But I suppose before we actually crack on with this, we have opened a bit of a store on the site. So if you head over to ForzaItalianFootball.com, along the top banner thing, there's a section right out there on the right, store. You can buy a couple of mugs. There's a beautiful Roberto Baggio one, which is my favorite, and there's a Fabio Cannavaro one is the other, but the Baggio one's definitely the one to go for, to be honest. But check those out. We might be adding some more things as the months go by. Right, on with this. Juventus beat Chievo. Nick, I almost hate talking about Juventus because we get criticised whether we do or don't, but there's nothing really we can say about them. I think the most interesting thing to take from this was that despite not starting, Paulo Dybala was probably the standout performer. The one thing I really took from this was Massimiliano Allegri afterwards said that he believes that he can go on to become one of the best in the world, up there with Messi and, well, to the level of Messi and Ronaldo after they retire. That's surely a bit too far, isn't it?
If you asked me 1 or 2 seasons ago, I'd say yeah, for sure. But to be honest, the way he's playing at the moment, it's you could see that in it. It's astonishing to think how good he could actually be. He's still developing so much. And as you said, he only played a small cameo appearance, but still stole the headlines from that match. And for anyone that was watching the match, it wasn't even, obviously he scored later on in the match. I think it was in the final couple minutes. But for me, it wasn't actually that was the most impressive. It was his presence when he first got onto the pitch for Gonzalo Higuain's goal. Now, he was in the lead up to that. He got the ball, and then he was running towards Miralem Pjanic. Now, it was just his presence. He didn't particularly do too much. He had got the ball, but his presence just going to the left towards where Pjanic was, the defense was just simply following him. And then that allowed Higuain to just run against the tide, gave him so much space and had an open shot on goal. And that's Dybala's impact when he doesn't even have the ball. His presence alone creates so much space for the likes of a Higuain, and it makes his job so much easier, and even a Pjanic's job to find that ball. So his presence alone, because he is so dangerous, we all know how dangerous he is around on the edge of the box. And then we saw later on when he does have the ball at his feet, beats one player, beats 2 players, beats the same player a third time, and wrong foots the keeper with a shot. So either way, it's so hard for a defense, because if you go to him, it leaves a Higuain open. If you hold off, he'll just pull the trigger. So
yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Because Paulo Dybala off the ball has always been brilliant.
Yeah,
but it's his on the ball play that I'm not going to say leaves a lot to be desired, but when it comes to finishing and scoring goals and getting himself on the score sheet rather than Higuain, maybe there are improvements to be made in his game there. Personally, I think that he should be scoring more goals, and it looks like he's going to do that this season. What is it, 5 goals in 3 games that he's got this year? Oh, I got that completely wrong. But when he joined Juve, Higuain was saying, obviously, how much he was looking forward to playing with him. And you can see why, because as he said, he drags defenders all over the place. And if Higuain even gets an extra half a yard from Dybala elsewhere, he's going to take that chance that comes as a result of that extra half a yard. But yeah, I think that partnership in particular this year could do something really special, which kind of leads you on to thinking, Me and you, I think, both tipped Napoli for the Scudetto. Am I right?
Yes.
Were we a bit too quick to jump the gun? But I'm going to defend myself before even asking the question. I wasn't saying that Juventus are rubbish now, but I just think that this is the year that Napoli will do it, and I stand by that. But were we and other people maybe a little bit too guilty of just riding off Juve too early?
I don't think so, because I mean, I think they're still rightly the favourites. I think, and to be clear, not to downplay Juventus, because they've done everything they've needed to. They haven't done anything wrong, haven't put a foot out of line for sure. But in saying that, at the moment they've played. Who have they played? Chievo. I've just had a mind blank. But they haven't really been tested this season just as yet. Chievo, Cagliari, and Genoa.
Yeah.
Sorry, which was 12th, 14th, and 16th respectively last season. So it's not, with all due respect, it's not. They haven't been tested as of yet. So we're yet to see where they really stand. And the big thing I think this season is the shift where we're actually possibly going to see their biggest strength is their attack as opposed to their defense, which it has always been this whole era of success. So, and obviously Dybala is going to be central to that, with Higuain, I guess, an accomplice to that. So I think that's going to be the biggest shift to that, and it's how they adjust to possibly not necessarily win games with their defense, but score enough goals to win those same games. Where Napoli, it's the same as last season. It's the same thing, and I'm sure we'll talk about them later. But I think that's why it's that there's more consistency in that team, which possibly convinces the likes of you and me to back them to win this season.
Yeah, 100% agree. They do with Daniele Rugani and Mehdi Benatia. They do have players who can fill in and replace Bonucci, but they're not quite of his level. And I do agree that they do need to focus more on the attacking side of their game, because let's face it, they have some brilliant players in attack, Dybala and Higuain being just two of them. One of the questions has just come in on the side, and it's, what do you think is better for Juventus? The 4-2-3-1, which we saw a lot of towards the back end of last season in particular, or a 4-3-3? So I'll leave that with you if you want to take it.
Yeah, I'm a bit short for this season. Last season, I definitely think 4-2-3-1 was the formation that they needed to get it done with, that if they were going to have a chance of winning the Champions League. But that midfield has been a little bit of a problem for them, and I can see how a 4-3-3 might suit them more. But in saying that, I don't think with this squad, I don't think there's anything wrong with going between. I think it would be a good thing for this team to be able to transition between those two formations, particularly in going from Serie A to the Champions League, because 4-2-3-1 quite possibly would work for Serie A throughout the season, where those two, Pjanic and Khedira, can do the job. They've proved it time and time again. But whether they can do that in the Champions League is a whole nother story altogether. So I don't know. Do you have a preference?
On that 4-2-3-1, I think last season it worked brilliantly because they had Alexandro on the left and Dani Alves on the right.
Yeah,
so when the two of them pushed forward, they had that extra cover in midfield. But if they're going with a 4-3-3, it's usually just one sitting, one box to box, and then one just kind of doing his own thing, which might leave them a little bit exposed if they've only got two centre backs. But I think we've seen with Allegri, he has them well trained enough that they can just go from one to the other. One of the things I praised them for last season was how they could flip between, what was it, the 3-5-2 and the 4-2-3-1 just at the click of Allegri's fingers, basically, which was very impressive. But I think that's enough Juventus talk, Nick. I'm sure you don't really want to be spending too long talking about them. I think the biggest story from this weekend, and for the sake of our Milan fans, we didn't start with this, but they were smashed at Lazio 4-1. It was hard not to laugh when you saw I checked the score for the first time and it was 3-0 to Lazio, and I was thinking, I might not even bother watching this back. But what happened to the Rossoneri?
To be honest, I think Leonardo Bonucci probably said it best. It was purely, I don't know, what his particular quote was it a slap in the face or something like that?
Yeah, he said it needs to be a wake-up call for these players. It should act as a healthy slap in the face, he said.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I don't think Rossoneri fans should be panicking already and thinking we've spent all this money and now we're still getting beat, 4-1. It's only 3 games in, as one of the commenters has pointed out. Obviously all teams are still getting into the match. I do realize that, getting into the season, I should say. And look, the thing is, it's this squad, and I think we've probably said this quite a few times, but this squad was always going to need time to come together. And Leonardo Bonucci is leading a very new defense and a very new squad altogether. So there was always going to be these teething issues and these kind of problems. And unfortunately for them, they ran into a Lazio outfit that was just rampant, and an incredible Ciro Immobile who was just brutal in attack. So, you could also take into consideration the delay of the match, possibly put off the preparation. So, there's a lot of things like that. So it's not a good result, obviously, but, you have to look at it in the schemes of things. And I think it just proves that, you can spend 200 million euros, but at the end of the day, the work's only just begun for Vincenzo Montella. So now's where the real task is to get this team ticking and working like a real Scudetto challenging squad.
Absolutely. I think having Bonucci in there will help them so much as the season progresses, especially after disappointing results like that, because he knows how to win. Even if he wasn't the key ingredient in that Juventus team, he was there. He saw it all happen. Yeah. He knows how to go through these disappointments. We saw at the beginning of last season, Juventus had a terrible start. It was the season before last, actually, wasn't it? In October, they were something like mid-table. Yeah, and they just put together, it was a 25-game winning streak or something in one league. So he's been through these obstacles before and come through it. So having him in there will certainly be of huge help. We're going to come on to Ciro Immobile in a little bit, but one concern I possibly saw in that Milan team was Lucas Biglia and Riccardo Montolivo cannot play together. Neither of them move enough, really. And someone made a great point. It might have been Ogo Silla over the summer that when Milan were making all these signings, he was still waiting on the one that made Montolivo irrelevant. And when they got Lucas Biglia, I thought he was that. Yeah. But then they played together, and Montella was actually asked about this after the game, and he said, well, it depends a lot on the third midfielder, which I thought was strange because it almost felt like he was pointing a finger of blame at Frank Kessie, who...
Yeah, exactly.
He covers a lot of ground, but if you're asking him to cover the ground of himself, Biglia and Montolivo, he's going to come up a bit short. So do you think that Montella will learn from this mistake of playing the two of them together? He seemed adamant that they can, but was that just him defending his players? I think Montolivo needs to be dropped.
Well,
played sparingly.
I don't know if there's too many people out there, including Milan fans, that are shocked by this, because, as you said, by whoever you mentioned that said that, it's strange that after Biglia was brought in, that Montolivo stayed, because for me, Biglia was brought in to do the job that Montolivo failed to do in recent seasons,
and then more as well, because he's
exactly. So it doesn't, to me, it doesn't make sense. It's a waste to have them both on the pitch, because I think I'm a big fan of Biglia. He's not nothing fancy by any means, but he does the job, and he did that perfectly with Lazio last season. So I can't see the value. Maybe whether it's an experience type of thing, or whether mentally he's a big part of this Milan squad still, I'm not sure. That's possibly something that we aren't privy to. It's hard to say, but for a lot of pundits, and probably you and me included, I can't understand it. And for Milan fans' sake, I really hope that Montolivo, it sounds bad to say, but I really hope that Montolivo isn't seeing too many minutes, because it's just not for the good of the team.
No, it's completely fair. I think they should have sold him, just got rid of him.
Yeah.
Maybe no one was interested, but he was their captain.
Hmm.
And then Bonucci came in and was named captain straight away. So Montalivo is redundant, completely redundant. And then maybe Manuel Locatelli will get more minutes if Montalivo wasn't still knocking around. But I don't know, maybe as the season goes on, Biglia will kind of take that holding position. Kessie will do all the running. And I don't know, maybe Jack Bonaventura will come in and complete a midfield three, which those three in midfield will be quite exciting because Bonaventura isn't afraid to work hard either.
Well, just with the defense, because I might actually go mention one of the comments regarding Bonucci himself. Do you think he's possibly being more exposed now that he doesn't have the likes of Chiellini or Bazzagli with him, which he has kind of developed with over the last 5-6 years at Juventus? Are we mainly possible? Is it a result of that? Because one of the commenters says that he believes he was a disaster.
Yeah, he goes further than that. He says he is a disaster. So this guy just doesn't rate Bonucci. I completely disagree with. I think Leonardo Bonucci is one of, if not the best central defender in the world. He's obviously going to struggle going from playing alongside Barzagli, Chiellini, and in front of Gigi Buffon for however many years to playing in this Milan. It's a new Milan, and he is very much... He was one of four. Now he is the one that is responsible for gelling all of that together. And the limelight is very much on him. So if anything goes wrong in that Milan defence, fingers are being pointed at Bonucci. He didn't have a good game by any means against Lazio, but I don't know, we always give strikers and players coming from other countries time to settle in, say they need a bit of time to settle into their new team. It's not as big a leap going from Turin to Milan, but in terms of the quality of player he's playing with and his responsibility to those players around him, I think he deserves a bit of time to settle into this role. He's stepped in as club captain. I think he will prove to be worth every cent they paid for him. People just need to calm down, like you say. And look, Lazio aren't a bad side. I made the mistake of writing them off before the season started. Simone Inzaghi hit out at people like me for being stupid. He said before the Supercoppa, people weren't even talking about us as finishing in the top 8. Now maybe we'll get some respect and they'll say we can finish 6th. So even that he was kind of hitting at. But they beat Juventus, and now they've smashed Milan. They could surprise a few people again this season. We haven't learned, have we?
Yeah, well, I'll put a little bit of defense of myself for this, because I did at least, I think in my predictions, I put them 5th ahead of Roma. But for me, it's always been Juve, Napoli, the front two. And then, to be honest, I thought the next 2 Champions League positions would be between Milan, Inter, and Lazio, because at first I was kind of wondering how Lazio would deal with those players going, such as obviously Billy as such a central part. But I really believe in what Inzaghi is doing, and I don't know how many times we spoke about it last season, but he's built a team, and that team works so well together. One can just watch the Supercoppa to see a bit of that, how they managed to beat Juventus. So they're probably from Christmas to the end of last season, they were probably one of the most, if not the most consistent team in Serie A. And I think they can continue to go alongside that. And they'll, if all things go well, I think they can push, at least challenge for a Champions League position with the likes of the Milan teams.
This is it. They lost Keita Balde-Diao late on, but it was kind of clear that he was going to leave throughout the summer, and Lucas Billy left obviously as well. But it was almost as if these players kind of stepped out of that team and were becoming more individuals and more individually minded. And Inzaghi was kind of thinking, okay, well, we don't need you because we've got this team. Lucas Leiva was brought in, who was nowhere near Biglia's standard, but he could easily just slot in. And because they're such a tight unit, Biglia might not be missed that much. And Nani came in instead of Keita Balde, so that he still has a little bit to offer, I'm sure. I didn't see much of him at Valencia last season, but I'm sure he can still do it. And of course, it helps when you got someone like Ciro Immobile up front. I never thought I'd hear myself say that sentence, to be honest. But it's time for us to give him some credit, isn't it? He was brilliant last season. He pretty much went toe-for-toe with Belotti. I'm not sure who scored more in the end, but should Immobile be the first name on Ventura's team sheet as the number 9 going forward?
going forward. Long term, possibly not.
At the World Cup next year,
Hmm.
Immobile is going to be playing in a higher standard of team. So there's more expectation on him. Is he the guy that Italy should be relying on over Andrea Belotti?
I don't know. For me, I don't think it's one over the other necessarily. I will agree, and I will say that he probably deserves to be the one number 9, let's say, for Italy. Purely, I mean, experience obviously plays a lot. I mean, I was just looking at his age, and sometimes I forget he's still actually only 27. Sometimes you think he's been around for so long, but yeah, he's still quite young in the grand scheme of things. So
in Serie A standards,
yeah, exactly.
You won't hit his peak for another 8 years.
Yeah, but no, you just look at that hat trick that he produced. It was a combination of I think the first one was the penalty, I believe. So the composure to take the penalty. The second was the volleys, the control, precision, and then the third it was kind of quick feet, changing feet to, I think he shot it with his left foot. So it was a bit of everything. And then after that, his assist, which was slowing down the ball, remaining calm, and then playing it across to Luis Alberto, and just he showed a bit of everything that you want in a striker, and not just an out-and-out striker, but a team striker, a striker that can work with those around him. So I think he's, as a starting number 9 for Italy in the World Cup next year, yeah, he's leading the way, certainly. But I think either way, they'll both have a part to play at the World Cup.
Yeah, well, they've shown both at Torino and with Italy that they can play together.
Yeah,
and it's kind of extra reassuring that they've shown that while playing under Ventura, both at Torino and Italy. But I guess my worry, more so with Italy, we won't go off on this, but it was when they play that 4-4 against a big team, because it doesn't work against good teams. But Italy's problem historically has been beating the other teams, the teams that they should beat. So if they go at 4-4 with Immobile and Belotti up top, goals really shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
So our Scudetto favourites then, Napoli, they were slow starters in the first half against Bologna, but they got a 3-0 win in the end, and it was pretty convincing by the end, really. They showed glimpses of why myself, yourself, and many others have just fallen in love with them this year and last, because the third goal in particular, they play some brilliant stuff, Nick, don't they?
It's amazing to watch. And you know what, you got to give them credit, because they do this every now and then. They did it quite a bit last season too, where for 50 minutes, 60 minutes, they still haven't got that opening goal, and you're almost starting to panic and think, are they actually going to score? And you start to worry. Not that I'm a Napoli fan, but it's having that patience about it, and that's a key thing for them, because they'll keep going at it. And even against Bologna, and credit to Bologna, because they did well in the first half to hold them out as well as they did, and to try and counter the football that Napoli plays. But and they almost started to panic at early in the second half. It looks like they might have they were playing some balls, pushing some balls in midfield that weren't on, and losing possession. And I was starting to think maybe they're not going to get this one. But then it was, you mentioned the third goal, but I think I've watched a replay of the first goal.
Yeah, I was going to mention that one
about 30 times, because
how many times have we seen Napoli do that?
It's incredible. Lorenzo Insigne, I was watching play by play. I was pausing it and playing it, pausing it. I love it, because you watch it and Lorenzo Insigne receives the ball and he barely even looks up. But in that moment, two things happen. Callahan has already started making a run at the back post, and Insigne knows exactly where he wants to play the ball. The two, without really, looking at each other or figuring it out, they both know instantly what's on. But then it's all good to say, okay, we're going to do that. But then Insigne's ball, to be able to just produce that, a curling ball into the back post, which perfectly dips over the defender. It's just,
Defensively, you can't deal with that because if you're
just,
running back and you touch it, it's going to go in, and goalkeepers just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
But I think it might have been on one of the podcasts you missed this season. I was talking about there were some clips doing the rounds of Mauricio Sarri's training sessions, and they use a drone, which is constantly monitored. And Sarri will stop everything every once in a while in the attacking plays and drag players physically like 3 centimeters to the right to tell them where to be and where they need to go. And he uses the drone. You know, in Football Manager, when you have it on the classic 2D setting and you can see your players' movements, it's kind of like that sort of thing. It's amazing. Napoli, you touched on something there when you said that they can often go 60, 65 minutes without scoring, but you just know that it's coming. And I remember when Barcelona and Spain were both just completely bossing the world of football around between 2010 2011ish. And I can't remember who it was. It was some player in La Liga, and he said the trick about them is they never stop.
Yeah.
So the game kicks off, and you close down Iniesta, and then he passes the Busquets, and then you close him down, and then you've closed down 11 players in the space of 10 seconds, and you're thinking, oh, I am wrecked. And you look up the clock, and there's still 89 minutes to go. I think Napoli kind of have that effect on teams because it's just pass, and players get dragged all over the place. And then when they have that almost telepathic communication with one another where the ball up, and he knows that Callahan's going to be there, and Callahan knows and trusts Insigne's ability and vision to pick him out and play the pass. It's unstoppable. And one of the questions from one of your namesakes, I think his name was Nicholas in the comments. Yeah, he said, do you think Napoli can win the big games this year? Which is kind of an interesting thing because Juventus have been their downfall in recent seasons, but Juventus aren't as infallible as recent years, I think. And as we said, they've not been tested yet either. So who's to say Juventus can even win the big games this year? They lost against Lazio already. So I think before we see otherwise, why not? Napoli can win the big games. Of course they can. Nick, have you anything else to say? I've got something else to move on to quickly.
You mentioned the third goal too, but that was just, almost taking the piss. Just passing it through. It's just poetry. It's beautiful. I could talk about their football all day. I'm not a Napoli fan, but sometimes I wish I was because it's just beautiful to watch.
I put up a tweet actually when that third goal went in. I said, it doesn't matter who you support. Napoli are one of those teams that you just need to be watching right now. So
exactly.
If you're listening to this, watching this, just type into Google for your own time zone when they are playing next and just take a couple of hours and watch them. You really won't regret it. They are brilliant to watch. James Horncastle said that he could see them potentially being the Monaco of this year's Champions League. I'm not so sure about that. I hope they're not, because I think that might come at a cost in Serie A. Do you think they have the ability to go to the semi-finals, even maybe the final in Europe this year?
In terms of ability, I do, 100%. Whether, as you kind of alluded to, how they go about the Champions League with relation to Serie A kind of sways my opinion on that, because I think Serie A might be their main goal this season. So they might not give Champions League 100, but they're not going to slack off. But it might not be Sarri's main ambition. But on their day, and going back to that question, can they take on the big teams? I really think with every passing week, they're becoming more and more of a team that can take on some of the best teams in Europe. When you've got the likes of Piotr Zielinski, who is looking like more and more an incredible big-time player, and that's the key. There's more of these players that look like they can produce in the big games. So, I don't.
And if you look at some of those big teams in Europe as well, the likes of Barcelona, Real Madrid, even Bayern Munich were beaten by Hoffenheim this weekend. They're not defensively that strong, Real Madrid have slipped up this season. Barca haven't conceded, but defensively they're always a bit questionable. I think Napoli's worst nightmare would be to be drawn against someone like Manchester United, because if there's one thing Jose Mourinho can do is just kill a game. So he might be able to stop Sarri, but who knows? I'm kind of with you though. I do hope I don't hope that they don't do well in Europe, but if it meant they weren't going to win the Scudetto, I'm sure a lot of Napoli fans would take them crashing out in the group stages even, but a ridiculously good double and win both. We'll see what happens. Nick, Inter Spal. I didn't see this. I only saw the 4-minute highlight clips that Serie A put up on YouTube, but VAR played a part here, didn't it?
Yeah, a small 6-minute cameo.
It got the decision right, though.
VAR, yes, that's the key. So depends what you're looking at for what you want from VAR. Do you want a quick decision that might be wrong, or do you want a longer decision which will be correct? Not to say that there aren't improvements to be made in VAR. There is some incredible. The implementation of it in Serie A certainly hasn't been good. I think that's a pretty fair enough statement to say. But I've seen a lot of criticism against VAR as a system, and I think that's a bit too much because, particularly in Serie A, I mean, how much controversy there's been over the years, over the seasons, about the refereeing decisions, with lots of conspiracies going around about certain teams. And, it doesn't make the league look good. And now there's a system that's working against that. But now a lot of the fans want to complain that it's taken too long. And, yes, it is taking too long. Don't get me wrong, but you can't complain about wrong decisions, but then when they're trying to fix that, complain that it's taken too long. Like,
I'm going to cut you off. Right. I agree, but 6 minutes is ridiculous.
Yes,
right.
It is.
We're not going to go on for 6 minutes on VAR because we did talk about this previously. Nick, you are doing something on.
Well, yeah. I'm gonna do a little bit of a opinion piece on VAR, but put forward the argument that basically along the lines of what I was saying. But keep. I can't speak English today. Stay tuned to the YouTube channel, FIF. I'll put a nice little VAR video up, but I'll be keen to get lots of opinions about that. So check it out and comment when I put it up, because we want to see what everyone else out there thinks about it, because it is controversial. But for me, to keep it short, I think the big thing is we need to be making the right decisions in Serie A, and we are moving towards it.
You're always a great man for a long, short answer. Do you know that?
I can't help it. I don't. I
think I just
like hearing my own voice or something. Sorry.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. We have a question. Are you contenders for the Scudetto? It's too early. I think we can both agree on that. They beat Spal. One of their goals was a penalty. But Inter were impressive, it has to be said. It was brilliant, but that's no surprise. Perisic was just stunning. But, Nick, you look confused.
No. I mean, well, Perisic, funnily enough, for me, Perisic, it was probably one of his most quietest games. I think Spal actually contained him for most of the games, where he's usually quite busy down that left flank. But I mean, he showed how much of an impact he can have when given the opportunity, I guess, because that I did tell you I can't speak English today. I'm in Germany, so I've been hearing people speak German all day.
I didn't realize you're in Germany now. Anyway,
yeah, nothing to do with Inter, but anyway, just for anyone out there wondering, what are we talking about? Inter. Yeah, so Perisic, showed he just needs one moment to show his kind of talent, and that's exactly why it was so important to keep him, because we've seen he's providing the assists for Icardi already this season. But yeah, I'm not going to talk Scudetto for Inter because it's 3 games in, and for me, obviously I make no secret that I'm an Inter fan, but it's silly to be thinking the Scudetto because that team doesn't deserve to be spoken in the same light as Napoli and Juventus, who are deserved Scudetto challengers for me. I don't think Inter's at that level yet. They need the consistency.
Fair, but if anyone's going to get them to that level, it probably is Luciano
Oh,
Spalletti.
100%. Look, I'll play them down as much as I can. I'll always do that. But look, there's a lot to be excited about. There's no doubt. Luciano Spalletti, I've spoken a lot about him. I think he's the perfect manager for Inter right now. Milan Skriniar has been incredible as a partner for Miranda in defense. He surprised me, particularly. I wasn't sure if he would be good enough straight away to be the first choice centre back, but he's in a lot of ways outshone Miranda. And for me, he was the man of the match against Spal. I thought it was incredible and almost pulled off a ridiculous long-range effort. It came off the crossbar. So
that was unbelievable.
Yeah, apparently he's got a shot on him as well. So, there's a lot that central midfield, Vicino, Borja Valero and Gagliardini, that seems to be working well, and a little rotation that Spalletti has them working in at the moment, which is working fantastic. And we know what Icardi does. So across the pitch is looking well, but I don't know. I'm an Inter fan for someone who's obviously not. I mean, surely you don't put them into a Scudetto challenge already, do you?
I think Inter's priority this season should be overturning the 10-point deficit between them and the best Nerazzurri in Serie A.
Oh God!
Right, to get back into the top four. No, seriously. Vieri was at the game for us, and he did the report and a quick video outside the San Siro. So you should head to ForzaItalianFootball.com, YouTube, Facebook, wherever, and watch that. Read what he wrote. And his closing line was something like "Inter can challenge," and I don't know. They can, but not this year for me. I like you said, they don't deserve to be put in that category with Napoli and Juventus just yet. But who knows? Spalletti can do a brilliant job there. Icardi will get them goals, and if Skriniar plays like this, they'll keep a few clean sheets with Miranda and at the back. That's kind of it for the big games, really. But if we're going to talk about one of the new boys, we'll fly through the next 3 games very quickly. Benevento. Oh, it was heartbreaking. They fell to the last minute defeat against Torino, and it was a weird one because Torino probably deserved to win it, but Benevento did not deserve to lose that. They had chances, and I think one of the big differences was Torino actually have a goalkeeper this season, and Sirigu made some excellent saves, and they probably would have been 3-0 down if they played this game this time last year. But Nick, Benevento.
Look, it's always going to be a struggle. Coming into Serie A, it's the same thing with Crotone last season, and Crotone hadn't won a point at this point either last season after 3 games. And now look at Crotone. They're infinitely better than where they were last season because they were on 0 points last season. Now they're on 1, infinitely better. So there you go.
All right, yeah, right.
Things are looking up for Benevento, is what I'm saying. Things can only get better.
You just sounded like a Crotone fanboy. But Atalanta beats Sassuolo 2-1, first win of the season. Petagna and Cornelius scored. No one cares. Best team in Italy. Verona lost 5-0 to Fiorentina.
Viola's back.
Sorry?
The Viola's back.
Right, they're not. They beat Verona. This is the thing. Everyone's like, oh, everyone rid off Fiorentina. Yeah, you beat Verona. You have Gianpaolo Pazzini and Alessio Cerci in their team, But one thing I will say for the Viola is Giovanni Simeone is going to be a player. I even said this in the first part of the season, I think it was, after slating them for about 5 minutes, I said, Simeone, Chiesa and Benassi will give them some excitement this season. And they did that, albeit it was against Verona. But Zena, what are they looking at? Mid-table finish this year or
Fiorentina? Yeah, mid. No, at the start of the season, given what had happened, I thought top half of the table is fair for them, whether that be 8th, 9th. I think that would be fair. So anything better than that is great for them, in my opinion. Because it's been well covered what's happened with that team and the turnover there. So, but look, it's Yes, it was Verona, but they should take confidence. And there's a lot of excitement. You've mentioned them about the attack there, particularly. And a fun fact for you, Connor. I know you like your stats.
Yeah, go on.
Of all the top five, of all the clubs in the top 5 leagues in Europe, Fiorentina rank number 1 for the shots per match this season.
All right.
20 shots per match.
Okay, Skriniar hit a shot from about 40 yards at the weekend. But, that doesn't really mean that much to me.
For Fiorentina?
Yeah, I know. But what I'm saying is you can shoot from anywhere. It doesn't mean that you're dominating a game.
No, I'm hey. We got Viola fans at home there just looking for a bit of hope. I'm trying to give it to them and you're just shutting it down. Unbelievable.
How many shots have they had this season?
60.
About 30 of those were probably against Verona at the weekend.
Well, you'd think that, but I think it was 20 against Verona. There was 25 against in one of the matches and then 15 in the other from memory.
Okay, so
it wasn't just one game.
All right, so you're helping me. So they had 25 shots in a match and didn't win it.
Look, I'm not saying they're perfect. I'm just saying there's a little bit to be excited about with that attack. I think there's some exciting talent there and a lot of potential there. And I'm trying to help our Viola fans at home. They've had a rough summer.
I think they need help coming back
to
reality based on a comment that's just come in. I was going to say, we seem to have a few Fiorentina listeners, which is strange because we just them a lot. But he says, Fiorentina is stacked. The only sides that will definitely finish ahead of us are Juve, Napoli, and Roma. How have Roma got into that list? And he says they'll finish in the 4th to 6th range. That's a big shout.
I like your positivity, Nikki. Is it
4th? Nikki.
No, I mean, look, it's good to be positive, I guess, in life. I think...
what I will pick on, what have Roma done to get into that list? Roma aren't going to finish in the top 3.
No. Look, teams that will finish in front of Fiorentina for me, I could confidently say Juventus, Napoli, Inter, Lazio, AC Milan, and possibly Roma.
Atalanta.
I'll put Fiorentina with Roma in the 2 after that initial 5. There you go.
You'd put Fiorentina in that bracket, really?
I'm trying to be positive. For Nikki at home.
I agree until you said Fiorentina. I don't know.
Well, I mean, look.
No one knows what to expect from them yet.
But look, after you look at the top 5 or top 6, it's going to be a battle for those next positions with Atalanta, Torino, Fiorentina. I think that'll be quite close. I don't think we should completely write off Fiorentina from that.
No, but that's the mid-table bracket. Fiorentina, Atalanta, Torino. Maybe, I don't know, Cagliari or someone will surprise them and get into that.
Look, put it this way. If Fiorentina finish 6th, that's incredible, and Pioli should be given coach of the season award.
He says, our goalkeeper is about the same. Fullbacks are improved. Centre-backs improved. Centre mid slightly worse. Maybe Marco Sportiello is going to cost you at least 15 goals this season because he switches off all the time. And he's a dick. But anyway... I was going to talk about season tickets because the Viola fans out in Italy aren't as optimistic as that guy because their season tickets fell this season, which is understandable given what's happened. Nick, in a word or no more than 20, I know how you are. Europe this year, Champions League, Roma play Atleti, Barca play Juve, Napoli are away to Shakhtar, and then the Europa League, Atalanta are at home. Well, not really at home. They're playing in the Mapei Stadium against Everton. Austria Vienna are playing Milan, and Vitesse play Lazio. How will Italian sides do in Europe this year?
I think they didn't get the best draw. I don't know if it's just because we're kind of Serie A bias and we always just see the negatives in it, but it seems like they always get tough draws. But I think they'll give it a good run. I think Juventus and Napoli certainly should make the next stage of the Champions League. I think they have enough talent to do that. In the Europa, well, Roma, yeah, it sucks for Roma because, look, the best thing for Roma is that there's no expectations on them with that kind of group. So let's hope they can kind of just play with no fear and get that experience, build that experience for future seasons, and assist Di Francesco in his ongoing development. Atalanta, you know what? I'm not sure. I would have loved for them to be at Bergamo. I would have loved it.
They wouldn't have lost at home.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You know, you look at Everton; they haven't been in great form. I think only 4 points from their opening 4 matches in the Premier League, and you can just imagine them coming to Bergamo. The atmosphere, it would be such a hostile environment for them. And you could, to be honest, if it was at Bergamo, I would say, you know, I'd be putting a bet on for Atalanta, double chance, win or draw for sure. Because
3-figure sums onto that.
Yeah,
you know, one thing
Mapai Stadium. Sorry,
that should be said is the Atalanta ticket situation is a mess. I don't know what's happening there, but the fans are not happy with what's happening. There's just a lot of confusion. People left in the dark who have applied for tickets, and as far as I know, on Friday, people still didn't know if they were getting tickets or not. And some of these people don't necessarily live in Italy, so they're trying to arrange travel to get there from London or something to see the game, and no one knows if they've got tickets or not yet. It's not being organized too well, especially given that it's not as straightforward as just going to Bergamo. You've got to get down to Reggio Emilia as well, you know. So I don't know. It's not the best preparation for it.
Yeah, it's you know, I'm not sure exactly what the situation is, but let's hope a lot of the fans can get down to the Mapai Stadium and they can get a result against Everton. Yeah, it's a tough one, but I'm really interested to see what Lazio could do actually in Europe. I'm not sure how Inzaghi will take it on. How much of it? I guess it's a big thing with how they weigh it up against the Serie A, because I'm sure Lazio, maybe they have Champions League on their mind with you know, top 4 places. So it's a tough one, but I think they could possibly surprise some people in Europa this season.
Yeah, I'd enjoy that, but I'm not going to get behind them because last time I tipped them to surprise people in Europe, they didn't even get into the Champions League because they fell out in the qualification match. But anyway, that's going to just about do it for us this week. Guys, thank you everyone who's been getting involved in the comments. We do really enjoy when you do that, especially when it's a 2-man show, because it helps us get through.
Yeah.
And it's always nice to know that people are watching and actually engaging with what we do. If you don't already, subscribe to us on iTunes or Acast, whatever. Follow us on Twitter at Serie A FFC, Facebook and Instagram, Forza Italian Football. Head over to forzaitalianfootball.com, read our stuff. Click on the very right. You can buy some mugs with Roberto Baggio and Fabio Cannavaro on. They're great, and you get your daily reminder of Italian football legends. Nick, Patreon, do a plug for us there, please.
Yeah, well, going off the back of what Connor's just mentioned, obviously you might have seen also with we're doing obviously the YouTube videos, but we've actually had a lot of our reporters like Vieri and Tom out at the stadiums as well. So we're trying to get reporting out live from each of the stadiums in Italy, and all of this YouTube reporting live, the podcast, we all do it voluntary basically. So any funds that we can get purely go back into the project and allow us to improve the overall project and grow the Serie A brand in the English-speaking world, which is our overall goal. So any assistance, any spare change that you can afford is very much greatly appreciated. And Connor mentioned the mugs, and personally, I'm quite looking forward to us getting a mug out with your face on it, Connor, because you're the biggest mug that I know. Over to you.
Said you weren't going to say that, Nick. I'm a bit heartbroken after that.
I've been waiting to say that all night, but I thought I'd run it in.
Thanks for that. I appreciate it. That's the last you'll hear from Nick on the Forza Italian Football podcast. not only tonight, but for the rest of the season. He's back in the stands like Spinazzola. But yeah, look, guys, thanks again for commenting. Get in touch with us on Twitter. Give out to me on Twitter for hating on Fiorentina. Give out to Nick on Twitter for being overly optimistic about something and just being a general idiot.
Look out for the VAR video and give us your thoughts.
Yeah, there you go.
It's coming out.
Ciao,
Agree
Jack.
with me.
We'll be back again next week.
Thanks, Jack.
10:30 p.m. UK time, 11:30 p.m. Central European time. Right here on YouTube, and then the podcast will be out tomorrow morning every week. So yeah. Thanks, guys. All that's left is ciao for now.